kamusta? Maayong buntag sa tanan. I hope you are safe and dry. I hope your family is all well because we know that there's a storm here right now in our country, and we've seen the news. People are affected. People are trying to cope with the effect of the storm. So while waiting for news regarding our trip going to Sikihor, unfortunately, I'm super sleepless because yun nga, I was waiting for news regarding our trip, and my anxiety got the best of me. I wasn't able to sleep really well. But I hope you guys are quite settled and safe from where you're listening to this. So again, thank you to the DICT family, the DTI family for inviting me to be one of the speakers for the Digital Nomad Summit. I'm Fleire Castro. I'm the founder of Dasho Content, an AI marketing company. When I was informed that I was one of the speakers for this summit, I was super excited. I have to be honest with you guys. I actually am at the verge of a burnout from creating my startup, from building my startup. I canceled a lot of talks for this month. I tried to settle down a bit because my health trackers have been telling me to slow down. It's been 3 years of a journey since I started building my second company, which is this AI marketing startup. But when the ICT emailed and said that I was invited to speak, this is what I said. I'm going on an adventure. So who could say no to the ICT, right? So that's why I'm here. I wanted to share with you my journey and my adventure on being a digital nomad. So my talk is entitled Embracing the Future of Freedom, the different paths to being a digital nomad. So this is what I'm going to share with you. Based on personal experience, when I graduated from college, I was an IT graduate from MSU IIT. Yes, I'm from Iligan, Bisayang Dako. My story was that from Iligan, when I graduated, I got a job at our local government. I was staying there for just a little over a year until I decided to actually freelance. No, it's really funny that my first job after leaving the local government was a freelancing job. No, it was super interesting because I didn't decide to pursue freelancing at that time because we just learned the news that I was actually pregnant. So when I heard that, our first instinct was to leave Iligan City. No, because of course back then, decades ago, if that happens to a young mother, no, I was 21 back then, the initial instinct was always to judge them. So in order to prevent judgment from family, friends, the community, we went on an adventure. Me and my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, we decided to tanan to Cebu. So when I tanan in Cebu with my husband, yeah, we got married in Cebu as well. I was super pregnant at the time. I got another corporate job. And just within 2 years of that work, I actually got fired. Why? Because I love blogging so much. I love to create content. I love anything digital and online. And they use those digital traces, digital footprints against me because at that time companies are very strict. They don't want you going into social media. They don't want you using the resources now to look into online stuff. No, so they used all of that as a point against me and eventually got me fired. No? But when that happened to me, I realized that I don't want to go back to corporate anymore because of my huge love for online. I decided to look for online jobs, and it so happens that my sister was already into Odesk. She was getting article writing work. And she said to me, Ate, why don't you try out Odesk? And that got me into article writing as a start. Back then, I was just writing for $1 per article. No, so that rate was very low. But it was a starting point for me because from article writing here, this was my setup back then, talagang desktop yung setup ko, I realized na I can actually expand my skills into SEO and then eventually into social media marketing. Social media marketing was not a huge thing back then, it's brand new. So I honed my skills into focusing on social media marketing, which eventually led me to creating my first company, which is 30 Media. So 30 Media is a digital agency. We're one of the pioneering digital agencies in Cebu. We've worked with a lot of companies from all across the Philippines, including Aboy Tislan, Mega World, even OceanJet. So they are actually our customers, yes. And because of being an entrepreneur, it got me into several opportunities to speak abroad and to expand my personal brand as well. And this got me into digital nomadism. No, they call it digital nomadism now, but back then it was as simple as calling it freelancing. No, but now there are different types of being a digital nomad, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. So again, yes, I started as an agency owner. This was my first company. I work often with young people. Right now we have Gen Zs, right? They're very talented young people. That's what I'm, people that I'm working with for my company at Dasho Content. But back then I was still working with the younger ones. This was my digital agency. And now I am working on Dasho Content. It's just a 3-year-old tech startup. So we're focusing on AI. So Gen AI, LLMs, we try and figure out what tools to use to help MSMEs and to help marketing departments scale up their content production using AI tools. So yun yung trabaho ko ngayon for Dasho Content. That's what I'm trying to build at the moment. Now, let's look at the different types of being a digital nomad, because as far as we know, and as far as other freelancers and digital nomads would understand, it's not a one size fits all. There are different types of digital nomads, which you can either be a freelancer, you can be a founder, you can be called a remote employee or an expat, or simply an experimenter. So try to think about which type of digital nomad you are now. But if you ask me, of course, I'm under the business owner or the founder, and that's what that's my status, kumbaga, at the moment. Now, let's start with the digital nomad called the freelancer. We call them the free agents. They have full control over their schedules. They have full control over their resources, full control as to who to work with, which projects to work on. Definitely full power sila. So these are the individuals who work independently. Often they are in creative fields such as writing, copywriting, designing, programming, development. So a perfect example is that you might know a friend who's a freelance graphics designer, and then they get to travel not just all across the Philippines, but all across the world. And then they choose the projects to work on, and then they also have multiple clients, no? So they have multiple income streams, but perhaps they just focus on one skill that they have, like graphics design or web development or web programming, no? Or writing. So this is what we call the freelancer. And definitely I myself, I started as a freelancer. I started with just article writing, and I was selling that service to several clients. And that's how I got started with digital nomadism. Now, the pros and cons of being a freelancer. Of course, the pros is that you have flexibility. You get to choose the projects, you get to choose the client, and this also means that you have diverse work experience and you can manage your own schedule, no? Because of course, when you have several projects and you juggle them, you get to choose when to work on them, how much time to work on it, depending on the complexity of the project, and how many clients you get to take in. But of course, the cons would be the income can become very unstable. Why unstable? Because if, for example, you juggle 5 projects as a graphics designer, let's say the 5 projects could earn you just enough for your monthly bills and to live comfortably, no? But then if one client drops off, maybe that's still manageable. But let's say 2 other clients drop off, so now you only have 2 clients left. This can be very challenging because it would mean that your income is now unstable. And so what you need to do is to now market yourself again, go out and send out proposals, because you need to balance out your workload and make sure that your income is actually enough for you to live on, no? So this makes financial planning very difficult due to fluctuating project availability. And as they say, at any time your project could end, at any time your client could drop off, at any time you could lose one, customer. They might decide to end your contract. Now, this is one of the cons of being a freelancer. No? So let's go to the next type of digital nomad. I don't know if you guys would want to become a freelancer, but how about becoming a founder? No? So just like myself, I've been a 2-time founder, and we call them the builders. No? So building dreams from scratch. So these are the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the startup founders who are running their own businesses remotely. So of course, since you are working remotely, it means that you're not just working for yourself and leveraging just your own skill, but you often work with other employees. You hire people, you have contractors, you source out the work, and this is how entrepreneurs operate. No, so an example can be a solopreneur who, let's say, is running an e-commerce store. So they have their own storefront, or they could have a Shopee or Lazada, and then while they're doing that, they're also traveling. Maybe because they don't need to manage inventory, they just need to do drop shipping. No, and another example can be a startup founder, such as myself, where while I'm building my tech startup, I can actually do it from anywhere. Just like now, I'm here in Dumaguete. Some of my teammates are based in Cebu. Some of them are based in Manila. And while building my startup, I can actually travel around and also join conferences, become a speaker. No, so I can still build my personal brand while running my own business. So that's the beautiful thing about being a founder as well. But of course, nothing is as simple as being comfortable with what your income is like. No, there are also pros and cons, definitely. So the pros could be you have a potential for higher income. Of course, aside from juggling just or working on one business, you can actually work on several businesses. You could be a co-founder for several startups. You could partner with several people who are also running their own businesses. So now you have potential for higher income. And also you can build a brand, not just locally, but since you are online, you can enjoy the location independence. You can also build your brand globally. And I guess this is one thing that's not being leveraged much by founders, no, that they can actually partner with entrepreneurs who are also based abroad and build their businesses. Now, the cons, eto, I think for me, mas marami yung cons ng being a founder, no? I actually joke that if given the opportunity, I wouldn't advocate for being a business owner because it's really hard. No, this is, I guess, one of the hardest things that you could do in life is to build a business, because the failure rate in building a business is super high. So it's like you're betting your life savings, you're betting your health, you're betting your time on the fact that you will be successful in building a business. So the cons in managing a business remotely is, of course, you might have overwhelming responsibilities. You will have a lot of stress, especially if you don't have a fixed routine. No, so of course, there are ways to manage this, but I would say if you are a startup founder and you are still in your first 1 to 3 years of managing a business, it could be really challenging, because it means that, as Paul Graham would state it, you are usually on founder mode. And founder mode means that you have to be hands-on every single aspect of your business, whether it's administrative or sales or operation. You have to be really hands-on before having the luxury of delegating it to some of your employees or your contractors, right? So this could lead to being overwhelmed. You have a lot of things to do. You have to manage your time. And even if you are remotely doing that, the benefits or the cons could outweigh the pros. So that's why if you are a founder, you have to have that vitality to push through with your plans and your dreams, right? So let's go to the next type of digital nomad. So if you feel like being a founder is not really for you, you could be a remote employee. These are the types of digital nomads who are always on. They're always off-site though. So always on, but always off-site. So these are the ones that are working for companies. They could be local companies here in the Philippines, or mostly they are from abroad. No, so they allow the same benefit of traveling while maintaining a stable job. So an example is, there's a lot of them actually, no, software engineers, because of course the talent here in the Philippines is quite affordable for the foreign companies who are looking for talent that can support their companies or build their startups. So a software engineer could be employed by a tech company that supports remote work, and then they can work on their projects, they can work on their tasks right from home or from wherever they are. Of course, let's talk about the pros and cons. The pros of being a remote employee is job stability. No, so your income is pretty much predictable because you operate just like an employee would. No, so let's say you work 40 hours every week. Sometimes you could be a part-time remote employee. Yeah, that's doable. Mostly you are a full-time employee though, no? So you have predictable income. So as long as you continue doing your work, you have your job. And with that consistency of income, you get to enjoy the freedom to work from anywhere. So for example, if you are planning a trip with you're an engineer, no, a software engineer, and you're planning a trip, let's say going to Disneyland in Hong Kong or Japan with your wife and with your kid, then yes, you can do that. You can travel and bring your work with you in Japan. No, so that's why we say that they're always on and always offsite, because that's a benefit, no, which could lead to being a con as well, because especially if you're expected to be always online, always there to answer any inquiries or to answer their emails, to answer their messages on Slack, which could lead to being a con, because this could disrupt your work-life balance. And another con is that because these companies are foreign companies, there's the time zone difference, no? So this could complicate any communication with them. Again, they would expect you to perhaps work in their time zone, and this would disrupt your sleep. This could disrupt your errands, especially if your family wants to, enjoy the daylight with you, but then you cannot because you're sleeping, no? So that can be one disadvantage of being a remote employee. Okay, so if being a remote employee is not for you, you could level up. You could be an expat, no? Enjoy the local life wherever you are. Maybe you would choose to be an expat in Indonesia, go to Malaysia, go to Vietnam, or be in Taiwan or Japan. No, you could be an expat, so enjoy the local life, but have that global mindset. So these are the individuals who choose to live abroad for extended periods of time. And we see this a lot in the Philippines, right? A lot of expats, so they immerse themselves in the Filipino culture, but they also love to work either locally or also remotely. They could become founders or remote employees themselves. But again, the expats are the ones who choose to live abroad for a more long-term period of time. So an example is a teacher could be living in Thailand for a year while exploring Southeast Asia during break. So I actually have a friend who decided to live in Thailand. So he's a perfect example for this as an expat. So he found a job in Thailand. He brought his family there, and oftentimes he comes back to the Philippines or travels around Southeast Asia. So it's just really a fun life, no? But the pros and cons, let's take a look at this. The pros could be, of course, they immerse themselves with the local culture. If they're into great Thai food, living in Thailand could be great for them. Living there for extended periods of time, it could foster deeper connections and experiences, because of course, if you live abroad, they have a totally different culture from us here in the Philippines, no? And from there, you get to build your network. You get to have these experiences that a regular Filipino wouldn't have. But then let's look at the cons. So one of the cons, the biggest ones of being an expat, is navigating visa and legal issues. This could be very stressful. This is a complex process, and it could impact your ability to stay in a country for long term. So I think this is one of the things that we can fix here in the Philippines. If we have something like an expat or a digital nomad visa, we could encourage a lot of foreigners to actually come here, no, and live in the Philippines and actually work on on their projects, and more benefits for us if that happens. So I'm not sure if we have a digital nomad visa, but could be a great way to attract international talent. The last type of digital nomad are the experimenters. Now, I added this because not everyone can be classified immediately as a freelancer or a founder or an expat or remote employee. Some of them, or some of us digital nomads, are actually experimenters who think that life is a beta test. So I wasn't able to update this, but what I meant by experimenters are, for example, those that are just trying to explore different places or different locations. They could be going backpacking in a Southeast Asian country, but still coming back to the Philippines. And they're trying to experiment the digital nomad life. Let's say if they're not traveling abroad yet, they're just moving locations. Like if they're based in Cebu, they try to work in Dumaguete, or they try to travel to Manila, just going backpacking and testing out the local culture, getting to co-working spaces and trying out the digital nomad lifestyle. It could really get addicting if you start to become an actual digital nomad, but if you don't have a good source of income yet, this could be a challenge for you if you are an experimenter. So of course, the pros, opportunity to explore different cultures. You don't need to stay for so long in one place. You could test out different lifestyles. You could be whoever you want to be. But your challenge though is establishing your steady income so that you will be able to sustain the lifestyle of being a digital nomad. So this is one very easy way to encourage people to start out being a digital nomad by experimenting. Try to travel around in the Philippines, try to stay, let's say, a week or two in one location, and then move again to another one after a week or so. And then this could give you a taste of the digital nomad lifestyle. Now, we gave you 5 types of digital nomads, and this is where you start to think, am I going to be that kind of digital nomad or this kind of digital nomad? But what you have to do is to actually look at your strength and start to carve out the path that fits you. So you could, again, start out by being an experimenter here, or you could start out immediately as a freelancer by getting your own clients. Start out with one project and then get your second one and then your third one, test it out. Now, if you become really successful with freelancing, you can expand to being a founder. So you can start sourcing out some of those clients, some of those projects to other contractors. So now you're going to build your own digital agency and explore being a business owner. Now, of course, you can move to being a remote employee instead, especially when you're already tired of being either a freelancer or a founder. You can choose to be a remote employee where you only have one customer or one client and you put in your full 40 hours to one client, then you become a remote employee. Now, being a remote employee can have benefits as well, especially if your employer offers you some of the benefits of being a regular employee. And I think some of the companies here in the Philippines can juggle being a hybrid company. So they might require their employees to come on site for, let's say, 3 days every week, and then the rest of it they can be work from home. So I guess they are exploring the remote employee setup, but not fully. So hybrid yung setup nila. Or you can be an expat, go to another country, sort out your visa, and try to live there for a more long-term timeline. Or start by being an experimenter. You don't have to go fully all out, but try to experiment the nomad lifestyle. So this is one way that you craft your own adventure. So that's why I included that slide at the very first part, because again, this type of lifestyle could be your own adventure. Now, what is the common thread among all of the 5 types of being digital nomad? For me, if you would ask me, it's actually the freedom. The freedom to craft your own life, the freedom to schedule whatever projects you want to work on, the freedom to choose the clients or customers that you want to work with, the freedom to be with your family, the freedom to craft a new skill that you've been dying to try out for so long. So I don't know if you guys would agree with me or the digital nomads here would agree with me, but at the end of the day, what we really want from being a digital nomad is the freedom. Now, let's go to excuses, because I might have convinced you guys to become a digital nomad, but there are roadblocks that can be converted into stepping stones to become a digital nomad. So some of the common concerns can start from the following. So first and foremost, yes, you can work anywhere. Just like me, I'm here in my budget hotel room. I only have one table, a bed, but as long as there's the internet, a reliable internet connection, you can now start to work. So a common concern, and number one, would always be internet connectivity. You have to make sure that you have consistent internet that won't disrupt your work or the communication with your clients or your customers. The next concern might be time zone differences, right? You might not be open to working with US customers who have a different opposite time zone to us. The other challenge is something that has been highlighted over and over is isolation and loneliness. Because of being a digital nomad, you could end up being just working alone in your room with no one to talk to. And of course, this is where the reason why travel comes as a perfect match to digital nomadism. But then it can also lead to isolation, because the more you travel, the more you realize that you haven't built deeper connections or relationships. Aside from that, there's a challenge of work-life balance. because of being a digital nomad. You could also be addicted to work, addicted to stress, as we called it. And this could dislife your work-life balance, because now you won't know whether you're actually working, you're out to work, or you're out for pleasure. No, so this could lead to burnout if you don't have that boundary between work and pleasure. So this is one of the challenge of being a digital nomad. Next is, again, we've mentioned this before, it's financial stability. You could have fluctuating income, especially if you choose to become a freelancer, or even as a founder. It couldn't be more stable, especially if you're in a startup phase. And the differences in living costs, the fluctuating income, it can become a burden to your budgeting. Next is your workplace setup. These are more of the logistics side, similar to internet connectivity. We have the workplace setup, the technology challenges. You need to troubleshoot tech. You need to find productive workplaces. And then healthcare and insurance. Most of the freelancers don't have one. No, so how do you navigate that, especially if you are abroad? And let's say, for example, worst case scenario, something happens to you. Are you prepared for it? No? Again, similar to the expat problems, you could have visa and legal issues, especially if you are a digital nomad and you overstayed in a certain country. No, you overstayed your welcome. What would you do? And then cultural adaptation. I mean, if you try to visit a place, doesn't mean that you will love it immediately, right? So you could have trouble adapting to the local culture. So all of these are the challenges of being a digital nomad. But of course, being a digital nomad, you have to start being creative. If your problem is internet connectivity, like in Sikihor, for example, I have a Starlink in Sikihor because I want to make sure that I have internet connection. But aside from that, I also have a backup internet. No, so that's the solution. Workplace setup. Make sure you have high quality gadgets so that you don't need to find a fix for it most of the time. If you are having trouble with working in your space, maybe because you are in a cramped room, you could try co-working spaces, cafes with internet connection, and who are okay with digital nomads working in their cafes, or maybe build your own workspace. No? Technology challenges. Troubleshooting solution could be at least have a basic know-how on how to fix your stuff, could be software or hardware. And if it's a more complicated issue, have a soke. You need to have a soke where you could tap them if you have trouble with your technology. So let's say, okay, so we've fixed the logistic issues. How about the time zone differences? What could you do if you have this problem? What you can do is you can try to negotiate your work hours. You can tell your employer, or you can tell your boss, maybe you could work like 2 hours overlap so that you can get coordinate with them, do some sprints and stand-up meetings, and then after that you can work in your own time zone. So try to negotiate. Isolation and loneliness, how do you fix this? Well, join communities, especially offline communities. If you can find communities that you like, then build your own. This is what we usually do at Dasho Content. So we organize our own events, we organize our own meetups, our own conferences to make sure that we have our own community. And of course, because we are a remote team, make sure that we are not isolated or lonely in our work. Okay, now let's go to work-life balance. I myself have trouble with this, so I'm still trying to fix this part of myself, the work-life balance. So have the discipline. If you are very disciplined with work, if you have high work ethic, you also have to apply that kind of discipline to how you're managing your time, to how you're putting up boundaries between work and pleasure and relaxation. No, so set your boundaries for your work and life. Next is financial stability. Of course, we know this. This is the main reason why we're working in the first place. So in order to fix that, have multiple hustles, have a side hustle. If you're purely online, have an offline business, partner with other people, try to see if you can help them out with their ventures as well. And this will give you different income streams so that in case one of your projects would end or a contract would end, you still have a reliable source of income. Healthcare and insurance, must have, especially for people who are working online. Try to explore having different kinds of healthcare and insurances, even layer it so that if there are emergencies or concerns with your health, you won't end up with nothing. No, you have a backup plan, especially for your family, because this is usually for your loved ones. And then the last one is cultural adaptation, navigating new cultures. Well, of course, that's the fun part of being a digital nomad. So try to get some friends, meet new people, and let them bring you in an adventure about their culture. And this is usually done through food, diba? Food and adventures. Ayun. Now, okay, let's say you're able to fix all those excuses of being a digital nomad. The question now is, how do you craft the perfect life? If you now craft your perfect life, your perfect digital nomad life, what will you get out of it? You will have definitely work-life balance once you figure it out. Now, the flexible schedules will improve your happiness and well-being. All of these actually here are not talked about often. No, we usually talk about the pros, the cons of being a digital nomad, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you can actually craft your digital nomad life. And if you achieve that, what you get. So again, you have work-life balance, which is good to talk about. Once you figure it out, ayun, maganda na yung buhay mo. You're able to balance it out. Next, you will experience cultural growth. So you're not stuck with just having a Filipino mindset. You will actually have a global mindset because you understand other people now. And then you will have financial freedom. So you're not relying on just one customer. You're not relying on just one client. You're not relying on just one source of income. This financial freedom would bring you would bring you financial growth, no, and better money management. Next, you will develop adaptability, and global networking. Meeting new people, getting to different cultures, understanding them would broaden your perspective about the world, and you would become more adaptable. And the last one is, I am sure a lot of digital nomads would agree with this, right? You would prefer minimalist living. If they tell you you only have a bed and a Wi-Fi, you'd be happy with that. If they tell you that you're now going to need to move to Manila, having just a very minimalist place to live in, you'd be happy with it as long as you have decent internet connection. You would prefer the minimalist living if you are a digital nomad. Why? Because if you live minimally, you can just pack up your things and go. If there's a storm coming in your location, maybe you can predict that. No, you can try to foresee if there's a coming storm and then pack up your things and move to another location and try to work there instead of being disrupted because there's a coming storm and the power line will be cut off. There will be brownouts. You won't be able to work. So you would prefer this time to be a minimalist in the way that you live. So now, how do you design a life that works for you? Well, I just mentioned to you some of the potential excuses of being a digital nomad and the benefits of actually being a digital nomad. So I share with you one of the last stories that I will share before I end my talk. I've seen myself as an achiever. I've always been an achiever ever since elementary, preschool, high school, college. I've always gained some sort of honor, some sort of medal. And in fact, I think when was this? I was actually invited to be a speaker on one of the graduations. So it's one of the greatest honors that my school gave to me. So imagine that being invited as a speaker on one of the graduations. So I feel old now looking at this. It's actually funny. But now, because of all the achievements or like all of the things that I got recognized for, I never actually understood why my parents love going on the stage and pinning the medal on me or putting the medal on me. So I never really understood that. No, my parents, my dad would be there to pin. My mom would be there to help me with some of my activities at school. They were always very supportive. And I never really understood that until I became a parent myself. So I have a kid, is currently 17 years old. He's a senior high school student in Manila. But when I had him in the middle of being fresh graduate, I was a fresh graduate when I had him. So when we realized that we were actually pregnant, I left my hometown just to raise him. So when I had my kid, I realized that I would do anything for this kid. I would change my lifestyle. I would craft my life around the fact that I am actually now a mother. That's what I thought. That's what I thought of. That was the only thing I was thinking of when I started being a mom. And so being a digital nomad, starting out as a freelancer, actually gave me that freedom to be the kind of mother that I wanted to be. And so with all the adventures that I am in, my son has been a part of it. In fact, my family, even my husband, has been part of my adventures. If I decide to go to Iloilo because I was invited for a talk, they'd often be there. If I was invited, I think a year ago, I was invited to Taiwan for an accelerator program. They were actually traveling with me as well. So this kind of lifestyle is what I would want for my family. And that's why I really, really keep this as something special, being a digital nomad and working from anywhere. This is the kind of life that I would want for my family. This is the kind of freedom that I want for myself. And with all the things that I have done together with building my startup, my first business, and now that I'm building my second one, aside from going all over the Philippines and advocating for entrepreneurship, advocating for digital nomadism, and now I'm advocating for AI literacy. I've been invited in Taiwan, I've been invited to Singapore, even locally, pitching in different competitions. But there's one thing that actually sticks out, that aside from the freedom that I love so much, I actually love to represent my country. So in every single stage that I go in, I represent the fact that I am a Filipina and I love my country. And so, as they say, especially with JRR Token, for the fans out there, not all who wander are lost. Some of us are actually on an adventure. So to wrap it up, I want to invite you guys, if you are AI curious and already in the process of being AI literate, and if you are a freelancer looking for gigs, I'd like to invite you to one of the platforms that I am building right now together with my team and in my startup. It's called Dashowork. We are building the first AI talent network in the Philippines. This is perfect for freelancers who are looking for gigs, the digital nomads looking for gigs, and the companies who are looking for generative AI talent. So right now, there's a huge AI and LLM boom, no? So the Philippines really need AI talent. They're looking for data labelers, human data labelers, AI engineers, prompt engineers, and every single AI talent that they could find. You can find that at Dashowork. So we are curating the best talent for AI. So if you are already in that space where you know how to use AI, or if you're a company, you're a founder looking for AI talent, check us out at Dashowork. So you can sign up for gigs, you can look for talent, and once we build the biggest AI talent network here in the Philippines, I am pretty sure that AI will enable the Philippines to be at a stage where we are just not known for our cheap talent and labor, but we are also known for our automation skills and being a part of the whole AI race. Okay, so I'll end with this last slide. Super last na lang talaga. I'm not sure how much minutes I have left. This was the last time I visited Siquijor. So right now I'm here in Dumaguete. So unfortunately, I won't be able to go to Siquijor anymore. But the last time I was in Siquijor, this was May. This is how beautiful Siquijor is. And I believe that if we promote digital nomadism and encourage people to actually go to Siquijor, they would find it really interesting. I brought my kid here. He was working on his classes. He was joining his classes from Zoom. We were chilling by the beach. This is how beautiful Siquijor is. And that's why I'm pretty much interested to encourage people to visit Siquijor, work in Siquijor, try to be a digital nomad, and have Siquijor as one of your destinations. Thank you so much. And again, that's me. I'm Fleire Castro, founder of Dasher Content, and thank you for listening to my talk.